our current events message, the Democrats are at it again. They removed "under God" from the Pledge of Allegiance during their convention. And Trump brought it up in a tweet. He said that the Democrats removed "under God" from the Pledge of Allegiance on purpose. Well, of course we know it's on purpose. I mean, this is the same party that supports murdering babies in the womb. They promote sexual deviancy. They promote everything that is defying. They promote almost everything that defies the laws of God. Everything that the Bible tells us to do, it seems as though that party has gone so backwards now, and they support everything that's opposite of what the Bible teaches us. And it's getting to the point where I don't know how anybody could be a Christian and vote for this party. I mean, they don't want to be under God. They want to be their own little gods. They want to dictate. They want to decide for themselves what is right and wrong, and they don't want to answer to anybody but their own lusts and their own ambitions for power. One of the scriptures that I thought of that relates to this, to people removing God or not wanting to be under God, Psalms chapter 9, verse 17 says, "The wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations that forget God." Now think about this. We have our second major party in America wants to forget God, wants to remove God. What do you think is going to happen to America if we allow that to happen? If these people are in control? Well, Psalms warns us. God warns us in His Word. The wicked means, actually, if you look up that word wicked, it actually means lawless. And that perfectly describes the Democrat Party today. They promote lawlessness in our cities. They want to defund the police so that the police cannot uphold law and order. Their morals are in the gutter. They promote kneeling for the national anthem, rioting, you name it. Lawlessness. It is I would say this, the Democrat Party is the party of lawlessness, of chaos, destruction, death. They've become that way. Now, it didn't used to be that way. Back in the John F. Kennedy years and so forth, there were decent Democrats back then, but it's gotten so far to the left that they've become just completely lawless. So if these lawless people are allowed to if they are elected into office and they do things like taking "under God" out of the Pledge of Allegiance, if they take "in God we trust" off of our money, and all those types of things, that's where America will be headed, to a place that's not very good. It'll be a place of destruction. And we're already seeing it in part. Look at, we're not even safe in our cities anymore. You can't even drive down a major freeway through the heart of the city without worrying about thugs and protesters or rioters blocking off a highway and putting everybody in danger. It's getting quite crazy. Also, if we continue reading, skip down a verse in Psalms chapter 9, the psalmist says, "Arise, O Lord, let not man prevail. Let the heathen be judged in thy sight." Okay? He says, "Arise, Lord." He says, "Let not man prevail." What kind of man is he talking about? He's talking about the lawless man. He's talking about people like the Democrat Party today. The psalmist is a God-fearing man, just like all of us are. We want to obey God. He has the same feelings we do. He says, let them not prevail. Let not these wicked people succeed in their efforts. He says, judge them, punish them. Put them in fear, O Lord, that the nations may know themselves to be but men. Selah. And whenever you see that word Selah there, it's a word that means you stop, pause, and think about what was just said. Okay? So he says, put them in fear, O Lord. And we're going to see that in the book of Revelation. God will start bringing judgments upon those that want to not obey Him. But I like this. He says, Put them in fear, O Lord, that the nations may know themselves to be but men. You look at our governor, a lot of our Governor Walz today of Minnesota. He thinks he's some kind of a supreme dictator. Mandating masks, shutting down the economy, and all these things. And he doesn't ever mention God. He's always saying, yeah, we just trust science. And the kind of science they're trusting isn't even real science in the first place. But nevertheless, these people have this mentality that they don't answer to God. They are not under God. So when a pandemic hits, close down the churches, they say. We don't need church. Churches are they're insignificant. They're not essential. But the one thing that should be essential, if a pandemic hits, is the church. That's the number one thing. That's the most important thing always. In fact, that's the only thing that's essential no matter what's going on in the world. Because you know why? God's in control. God could stop these plagues. He could stop pandemics. COVID-19 isn't, I don't even think it qualifies as a real pandemic, to be honest with you. But even if there was a real pandemic, the answer to stopping plagues is by putting our faith in God. God can just snap his fingers and boom, all of a sudden it vanishes, goes away. But now they're trying to push all these other remedies like vaccines and so forth. I actually read an article today that some doctors are saying that if they come up with a vaccine for COVID-19, it could actually strengthen the virus and actually make it worse. So right now it's a virus that isn't very deadly to anybody except for the elderly and somebody with underlying health conditions. But if they fail at this vaccine attempt, they could actually turn this virus into something deadly because the virus could start mutating and trying to do some things. So, all right. Continuing on to Psalms chapter 10. Back to the Democrat Party here, removing God from the Pledge of Allegiance. The wicked or the lawless, through the pride of his countenance, will not seek after God. God is not in all of his thoughts. Okay, the Democrats today, they don't get up thinking, get up and pray and say, God, please lead, guide, and direct me to do what's right. They don't even give two thoughts. They don't care about what God thinks, because all they care about is what they can get for their own. All they care about is power and control. His ways, the lawless person, his ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. Okay? Perfectly describes the lawless party today. They mock at people who want to stand up for the truth, that want to stand up for the Bible. Their ways are always grievous. Why? Because they don't trust in God. They don't believe in God. Verse 6, he has said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. Okay? That's how these people think. They thought this way until Trump came along, and they thought, oh, nothing will ever stop us. We can just get away with everything. That's why, you want to know why they hate President Trump so much? Is because they were getting away with everything they were doing without hardly any opposition, and now somebody's actually opposing them, and they're crying like a bunch of little babies in their frustration. In fact, it's getting to the point where it's not just crying like babies, but it's demonic rage and anger and fury. His mouth, and this describes it, his mouth, the lawless people, is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. You ever hear of the fake news media and so forth? This is it right here. They're a bunch of liars. All they do is lie, deceive, and the people that do not put themselves accountable to God, they've got nothing stopping them from lying, cheating, and stealing. What if they don't believe in God? If they don't trust in Him, if they don't fear Him, then what's stopping them from doing whatever they want to do? Nothing. Other than somebody else taking them out of power. That would be about it. So, it's interesting. I'll just mention this in passing. Psalms chapter 9 and 10, for some of the deeper students, is an irregular acrostic. An acrostic is something, it's basically, they put Hebrew letters before, this kind of acrostic anyways. Each sentence starts out with a certain Hebrew letter. And an example of a perfect alphabetic acrostic would be if I started verse 1 would start with A. A boy went to the field. And verse 2 would start with B. Verse 3 would start with C. And it'll go all the way down through the alphabet till you get to the end. And every line would start with that letter of the alphabet in order. But this acrostic in the Hebrew alphabet is like an alphabetic acrostic, whereas each line would start with this next succeeding letter in the alphabet. But it's not perfect. It actually has some breaks in it, some things that are out of order. And what that acrostic tells us is that the lawless men, the lawless people, have things out of order, okay? It was actually, if we were all Hebrew, this is something, when I say acrostic, it almost sounds like this is something, I said it was deep, but it actually isn't really that deep. I could teach this to a kindergartner if I had all these verses up there, and each verse they could see started with a big, huge letter of the alphabet, and each verse, it's just, what they do is they make that letter really big. You ever read a book where the chapter starts out with a huge letter like the, and you see the T takes up? So basically that's what they do in the Hebrew manuscripts. They have these huge letters at the beginning. You don't see it when you read the English, especially if you don't have a study Bible, because it's not there. They don't make the letters big for us because it wouldn't make sense in English. Anyways, it tells us that things are out of order. Things are not following the laws of God during Psalms chapter 9 and 10. Forgot my questions and comments slide, but that would wrap it up. Psalms 9 and 10 describe what we're seeing today with the people that do not want to follow God, and namely the Democrat Party. They're showing their true colors. They're saying, hey, we don't want to live under God. We are our own gods. We decide what's right and wrong. And it's a recipe for disaster. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Seems to me that Kennedy was probably the last Democrat that actually cared about the country, and that's why he was eliminated. His brother, of course, was against the mob and all that. He was not perfect, obviously, a womanizer himself, but they got rid of him for a reason, because he was stirring up too much trouble,
right,
for the rest of them. That's what I think. Otherwise, there hasn't been a Democratic president that has cared about anything.
Right, yeah, he, from what I understand, he wanted to have the government actually take control of the money supply rather than the Federal Reserve, but he wanted to have the federal government actually print some currency rather than the Federal Reserve, which isn't part of the federal government, it's a privately owned banking system. So just that move alone threatened the power base of...
and his brother was trying to wipe out the mob at that time,
Right.
So they got themselves in a little deep. Plus their father was a bootlegger,
Sure.
Joseph, what was his name? I don't know. Was it Joseph or Jack? I don't know. But he was a bootlegger. That's how they made their money.
Okay.
But old money.
So one of the last decent Democrats, huh?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise, Johnson, he was nothing. It just went on.
Right.
It was stupid. And then it got to the Bushes, who might as well have been Democrats.
Right. Yeah. Damien, you got something?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember exactly how long ago. I think it might have been when Obama was elected, or first time. So maybe 8 or so years ago. But they actually, as part of the convention, they do some housekeeping stuff, with their doctrines and what they believe in. They at that time removed God from their platform. They voted and they said no more mentions of God in the platform. So it doesn't surprise me that they would take God out of the Pledge of Allegiance. But I mean, so it's been, their darkness has been happening for a while now.
Right.
And in fact, I don't know if you saw it, and I don't know if it's a stretch, but I'll show you later. But there's a picture of the logo of the satanic religion of Satan, or I don't know what their official name is. And it's almost the exact same as the new Democrat logo.
Really?
Democrat, with their current party.
Wow.
Without the ram's head or the goat's head or whatever, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the exact same shape and everything, and the color is the same as where the head would be.
Wow.
And so I don't know if that's a coincidence, but I'd like to think that it's not, because that's kind of who they are. So
Right.
it's interesting.
And I like to say that now they're not Democrats anymore. They're demoncrats.
Yeah, I remember, people would say this for years, and now I would never say anything, but now I do if somebody does say it in a conversation. But they'd say, well, I'm not Republican or Democrat. I just vote for who the best guy is. And that doesn't work anymore, because the Democrats are so far left that if you're on the Democrat side, there's just no way you can support them. Like all the things you mentioned earlier, they're evil, and they're against America, and they're lawless, and so I don't care who's on the Democrat side. If you vote for them, you're voting for all that evil. So that doesn't work anymore. Back in the day, you could actually vote for a Democrat, and maybe they were a decent person, and maybe they. Yeah, so that argument doesn't work for me.
Yeah. I agree. Anything else?
Yeah, they used to keep everything secret. Now it's right out in the open. They don't
Yeah.
care.
Well, I'm actually kind of glad that they're at least admitting that they don't want to have anything to do with God, because what's actually more dangerous is when they pretend to
Right.
be followers of God. I think they actually get more evil done by doing that. So
Which they still do that.
yeah,
All the current, like, if you watched any of that convention, I don't know how many times they said how Joe Biden is a man of extreme faith and love, and
right,
just make it overboard on how faithful he is. And one of them said something about, I think the Vice President Harris said something about the word is so important to her, and that was about it.
yeah,
It's just,
But
Yeah.
they use that, Pelosi talks about her faith, and it's like, we're not supposed to judge, I know, but when it's right there in front of you, I think, and you look at the Bible and you put two and two together, you can judge through God's eyes that these
Right.
guys are false and evil.
yeah. Jesus said in one place, "If you love me, you will keep my commandments." But they say they love God. Some of those Democrats do, but they hate His commandments.
Right?
And they support every policy that is against His commandments. So it's in another place, Jesus says you judge a tree by its fruit. And
if they're promoting late-term abortions and all that other crap, that's
yeah,
Yeah, I don't care what they say about what they believe. They're lying.
right. All right. Well, we hope this message was a blessing to you. If so, please like, share, and leave your comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, my friends, stay in His Word every single day so that you can be a Christian overcomer.